You're watching NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey, talking about everything going on around the NFL. We're going to begin with some more quarterback conversation around one, Baker Mayfield. He is, for now, stuck on the Cleveland Browns as trade talks with the Panthers collapsed during the NFL draft. The Browns would not eat any of the money, but the Panthers wanted them to and ended up falling apart. Then Carolina takes Matt Corral. Baker, meanwhile, has an $18.8 million base salary this year. That contract, that amount of money owed to Baker, is a sticking point and a major one for any team trying to acquire Baker. At the back end of 2020, after a promising first season, a down 2019, the back end of 2020, the final 10, 12 games or so, Baker legitimately was playing like a top 10 QB. He looked like the guy for the Browns. They won the playoff game. They beat the Steelers. The arc was trending upwards for Baker, taking the next step forward and emerging as a franchise QB. But in a what have you done for me lately league, Baker struggled last year. Injuries, no doubt a part of it, but confidence seemed to be lacking as well. The footwork was a disaster, and Baker was holding back his team. The Browns went ultra aggressive to acquire Deshaun Watson. Now they are trying to find a taker for a guy who a year ago looked like a franchise QB. So 4 teams that I think could maybe make some sense here for Baker Mayfield. First up is Seattle, and I know there's the report from ESPN that Seahawks are out on Baker. Okay, are they? Like that feels like almost a leverage leak, because the Seahawks and the Carolina Panthers have both been from heavily to somewhat linked throughout this offseason to Baker Mayfield. Carolina, second on this list, also went out and made the move to go acquire Matt Corral in the draft. But Seattle, over Carolina, who's number 2 on my list here, again, thank you, they have the need, and they have some money. Now, again, contracts got to be worked out. Those two would seem to be like the top options, especially for a team like Carolina, who they need to win games right now. Baker would not be that expensive. He's upgrade over Sam Darnold. You can still develop Matt Corral, who's not going to be good to go and ready to play for you in year 1. Houston's your dark horse team here. That is an organization that has Davis Mills, but there was also a report that after the draft they could have interest in Baker or Jimmy G. I think all 3 teams would have more interest in Baker if he were cut, and then it would come down to where Baker wants to end up playing. And then the deep, deep dark horse mentioned by Daniel Jeremiah is the New York Giants. Now, the Giants have Daniel Jones, but how good is he really? They are very tight on cap space, so I would say it's a bit more likely a release would have to be worked out, unless you could do some wild trade in which James Bradbury goes to the Browns and then you take on Baker. Maybe that might be getting a little bit too complicated from that standpoint. There are 3 routes for the Browns right now with Baker Mayfield. Which one will they do? Type T for trade, type in C for cut, or type in K for keep. This question is the pinned comment on today's video. So that ad break comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's talk DK Metcalf extension now in light of some comments made by one Pete Carroll. Metcalf has been linked to trade rumors and contract extension talks. Now, the Seahawks have been saying publicly, we want to keep him. We want to keep him. We don't want him to leave. Despite all of the wide receiver chaos this year, the counter-argument would be, well, yeah, the Titans said that about A.J. Brown, and Seattle said the exact same thing about Russell Wilson before he ended up getting dealt. But here's the quote from Pete Carroll about a Metcalf extension. It's really important to us. We'll kick it into General Manager John Schneider's court here in the weeks to come after the draft. We're really communicating great, and DK, we went on a great wavelength to move forward. Hopefully, this will all work out. We don't plan on him going anywhere. We want him to be with us. Very similar phrasing to what was said by about Russell Wilson there, so keep that in mind. Metcalf is an awesome football player, one of the better ones in the NFL. He's a stud. And even in a down year yards-wise for 2020, this is a guy who's been basically a 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown guy on average throughout his NFL career. That has super value as far as I'm concerned. But the plan was the line used by Pete Carroll, and to silence the critics, truly you have to pay DK Metcalf. So I think it's a low number, but it's not zero all the way, especially in light of the receiver contracts that have been given out. So what is the percent chance you think DK Metcalf ends up getting traded? Get your predictions in, or your answers in, I should say, in the comments right now. To afford DK Metcalf, you probably got to pay him $25+ million a year. I think that number for A.J. Brown coming in under 30 was a good thing for Seattle. If A.J. Brown had gotten $31 million or more than 25, you would anticipate that DK Metcalf would be asking for something similar to that. And now maybe it's $25.1 million. If I'm Seattle, I do that. He is a piece of your young core. Your only proven, still super young, reliable player on that offense. You build around that guy as you wait to find your franchise QB. The highest paid wide receiver here. In terms of the guaranteed money, notice Josh Allen didn't come in, A.J. Brown didn't come in that high. Can you get him for, I think it was $57 million for A.J. Brown, $60 million? Do the 5-year, or 4-year, $25 million per year deal with $65 million guaranteed, $60 million guaranteed. I think that gets it done for Seattle and for DK Metcalf. Folks, Chat Sports is today, or the NFL Rumors today, is presented by Locals. You can get intimate access to more content creators on Locals, so head over, check them out, locals.com. My boy Mitchell Renz is over there, and people are talking. Might see me on there in the near future as well. So more content, more sports videos and engagement and community stuff all there on Locals. Check them out. Links in the comment section and in the description, locals.com. Let's go to Kyler Murray. Murray and the Cardinals have had a rather, I'm going to call it ugly, public contract negotiations so far, where Murray's out there sending out statements through his agent, etc. It's all kind of sloppy and gross there. Murray wants to get paid, and the Cardinals say they want to keep him as their franchise QB. Here's what GM Steve Keim had to say. Anytime you've seen quarterbacks after their third year do their contract extensions, it's generally been anywhere from about July to September. It's one of those things when we get through free agency and the draft process. I mean, it's a lot of work we put into that. So now we can take a step back, take a breath, refocus, and try to get something done. Like I said, Kyler's our long-term future, and there's no doubt we want to have him here in Arizona. I think Arizona had some problems with the way the season ended. Murray coming off the injury was a part of that. His numbers, as you can tell, they plummeted, and certainly not in the good way. Completion percentage dipped off. Passing yards dipped. Yards per attempt dipped. Rushing yards went up. Turnovers stayed about the same, but the touchdowns fell off a cliff, and Murray fumbled a lot last year. He just didn't lose any of those fumbles, and there's been buzz that there was some organizational angst over the way Murray conducted himself as a leader, but he was your first-round pick. We saw how good he was in the first 8 games. You are hoping Kyler is your guy, but you might have some concerns about him showing it so far. Now, how much would you pay Kyler Murray per year? We'll get to the numbers, what the averages are, top 5 here momentarily. But I want to hear from you guys first. What is the most you'd be willing to pay Kyler Murray on a per-year basis? The highest paid QBs in the NFL right now, Aaron Rodgers at $50.27, down to Derek Carr at $40.47 on a per-year basis there. You got to figure that at minimum, Murray wants $41 million a year. Think he's going to settle for less than Derek Carr? I certainly don't think so. I think he'd be aiming for the Josh Allen deal. And the issue I think you might run into in the quarterback market is what the Browns did with Deshaun Watson. Didn't play football for an entire year. Gets a fully guaranteed contract of $230 million. Blew by Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. That contract was a new benchmark set in the NFL, and I don't think it went over well with the rest of the NFL because, well, now the next guy's going to be asking for that as well. That was a problem for the NFL, and I wonder if Murray would be asking for something similar. Would he get it? I don't think so, but Deshaun had his own issues, and it didn't seem to matter in the end, including blowing that big playoff game, which was an issue for the Cardinals when they lost with Kyler Murray. Arizona always falls off at the end of the year. They had that Cliff Kingsbury always falls off at the end of the year. That's got to get fixed. And I could see a scenario in which the Cardinals try to not pay Kyler this year, which could cause things to have more issues, but they also traded for Marquise Brown. That was a good sign, I think, that they want to keep Kyler long-term, in terms of an action more so than their words. We've got NFL news, rumors, and live shows like this one right now here on Chat Sports. So if you want to get the best NFL coverage, hit that big red button and subscribe, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Some NFL scheduling news with a little over a week to go until the full schedule is revealed. We have the international games. 3 of them in London. October 2nd, it's Vikings-Saints. October 9th, it's Giants-Packers. October 30th, Broncos-Jags. At least Russell Wilson's good this year. I think that Vikings-Saints might be the most competitive of the bunch there. Seahawks-Bucks out in Germany. Tom Brady going overseas November 13th. And then down in Mexico City, November 2nd, the Niners and the Cardinals, which should be a pretty intriguing game on that front. So those are the 5 international games. I will say for the Germany one in Munich, rough for the Seahawks fans. That's going to be like a 6:30 a.m. kickoff local time. That's pretty brutal, but hey, you're adding a new fan base to an extent, being able to play in Germany. So those right there, those are your 5 international games as the NFL continues to try and grow.